Hello, I would like to take this time to welcome each of you to HLT 2200, The Culture and Ethics of Healthcare Administration. I'm Dr. Brandy Norris, and it is indeed a pleasure to have you in this course. The textbook for this course is Ethics in Health Administration, A Practical Approach for Decision Makers, the third edition by Eileen Morrison. Our primary focus this week is on ethical theory and principles. Much attention is placed on 8 theorists who are known for being instrumental in creating the foundation of ethics in healthcare. So why study ethics in healthcare administration? Ethical knowledge becomes valuable when working with healthcare professionals, patients, family members, policymakers, and other stakeholders. Not only should healthcare professionals focus on what is right versus what is wrong, they must also possess the ability to understand applications of various concepts in relation to ethics such as autonomy, beneficence, justice, and non-malfeasance. We will explore each of these concepts in depth. Ethics play a critical role in decision-making for administrators and other health professionals and serves as a determinant of success. Oftentimes, administrators are viewed as a moral compass, meaning, as a leader, you are a catalyst in guiding moral behavior as well as displaying such behavior to gain trust from your followers. Ethics, what is it? As we study this topic, a good question to ask yourself is, how does ethics relate to the 10 Commandments of the Bible? Furthermore, as healthcare administrators or future healthcare administrators, you might ask yourself, how do I honor God's law while complying with man's law without compromising my personal moral compass? I invite you to ponder on these questions as we review the various types of ethics. There are 4 primary types of ethics discussed within your text: normative ethics, meta-ethics, professional ethics, and personal ethics. Normative ethics focuses on an individual's action. It serves as a basis in determining whether a person's actions are morally right or wrong. Meta-ethics focus on defining morality and what constitutes good versus bad. Professional ethics, such as a code of ethics defined by your profession. For example, the American College of Healthcare Executives have their own code of ethics. AHIMA has their own code of ethics for HIT professionals, as well as doctors, lawyers, etc. Pretty much many disciplines within the industry have their own professional code of ethics. And then we have the personal ethics, in which it is an individual's philosophy of what is right versus wrong. Let's take an in-depth look at normative ethical theories. There are several types, as you see listed on this slide. Let's review authority-based. Authority-based theories are those that may be faith-based, such as a Christian, a Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Nazarene, etc. Alternatively, they may be ideological, meaning that they are based on cultural, political, or religious beliefs. For example, the writings by Karl Marx and other capitalism, which emphasizes a social system based on individual rights. From a political perspective, capitalism refers to freedom, a laissez-faire. Legally, it refers to the rule of law versus man-made laws. So in summary, authority-based theories determine the right thing to do based on what some authority has stated or mandated. For some cultures, this could mean we have always done it this way, so why change it now? Or, I'm going to do it this way because the elders in my family taught me this way. Natural law. Natural law theory refers to the right thing to do, that is, which is in accord with the unplanned nature of the world. For example, God ordained this, or I am here in this position because God has ordained me to be here. This theory draws from Aquinas' principle of ethics and belief that God is perfectly rational and he created the world in a rational manner, thus giving humans the ability to reason and to wonder about the cause of all things. Therefore, humans are capable of choosing good and avoiding evil. Humans were also given the gift of free will. If people are true to their rational natures, they will listen to their conscience or their inner self, which many people say is the voice of God, and choose good over evil. Several debates regarding abortion, euthanasia, and social justice draws from this theory. Looking at examples of normative ethical theories are utilitarianism and virtue ethics. Also, Cation by Kant, the theory of Kant. In Cation practice, all people are valuable no matter how they contribute to the bottom line. An example of this is patient rights. Going further, let's look at Kant's categorical imperative principle. In other words, this principle is utilized to help to make decisions. There is no budging with a decision, and absolute right is there under any unyielding circumstance. Purification practice is not always practical in healthcare, but it does give you as administrators tools to ask questions and make decisions. Utilitarianism, or consequentialism, is based on the idea that ethical decisions are based on consequences. The primary focus is on consequences of one's actions and how others may be affected. Decisions are made based on the good that can be achieved by certain actions or behavior. An example of this is in HIT, Health Information Technology, implementing a new EHR or EMR system in hopes of producing better quality outcomes in patient care, enhancing efficiency, and reducing costs. Both patients, employees, and the healthcare organization at large reap positive benefits. Virtue ethics focuses on the moral character of the individual eliciting certain behavior or acts versus the consequences of committing the act. An example of this would be the professional code of ethics and your personal ethics, what an individual view as most important in his or her life. Let's now look at the teleological theories, which is another term utilized for utilitarianism, as I just stated. Again, that belief is based on the belief that individual suffers based on the consequences of his or her actions. Deontological theories, that determines what our duties might be. This particular theory was founded by Immanuel Kant in the late 1700s, and it is duty-based on ethics. It's duty-based ethics, if you will, and judges the morality of an action based on the action's adherence to rules. Virtue ethics refers to when people seek to strive to be the best that they can be, developing one's potential for excellence. And egoistic theories argues that what is right is that which maximizes a person's self-interest. All of the above six theories provides a historical background as to how the Big Eight theorists derived at their ethical principles. With this information, let's now take a look at each of the 8 ethical theorists in detail. The Big 8 ethical theorists are scholars who created the foundation of ethics on global, personal, and moral levels. These include St. Thomas Aquinas, Immanuel Kant, John Stuart Mill, John Rawls, the Greek philosopher Aristotle, Martin Buber, Lawrence Kohlberg, and Viktor Frankl. The first 4 of the 8 scholars focused on global issues surrounding ethics and ethical decisions. The next couple of slides outlines each of these 4 theorists' individual perspective. For the sake of time, I will not read each slide verbatim. I'm going to leave that up to you. However, I will just provide a few pointers that will be an overview and propose a few questions based on each scholar's philosophies. Let's look at St. Thomas Aquinas. Aquinas really believed in natural law. He was influenced by Aristotle, and his main focus was good versus evil. So a few questions that you could answer yourself to help you remember St. Thomas Aquinas is, what happens if evil is chosen over good? As it relates to healthcare, what calls for the healthcare systems? What are the cost factors for the healthcare systems? What is your obligation to those who do not make rational choices within your organization? And can you limit health care based on life decisions? One topic that comes to mind is this new law that was recently passed in California as of last week, entitled The Right to Die. Is that good versus evil? Is it okay for physicians, because by their law, 2 physicians have to sign off and approve a patient to administer certain drugs to themselves with the approval of those 2 physicians? Is that really right? Does the patient have that right? And if so, is that good or is it bad? And under whose perspective, God or man? So remember those type of questions as you think of St. Thomas of Aquinas. Let's go to Immanuel Kant. He had the theory of deontology, or duty-based ethics. Everything in society has value, and the truth is based on truly the goodwill of people. Key component for Kant is his categorical imperative principle. All people are valuable no matter how they contribute to the bottom line. So for example, everyone in your organization, from the CEO to the janitor, they all have value and add value to your organization and contribute to your total profit margin. Categorical imperatives help with making decisions. Examine purification applications towards policies and procedures. And remember, the purification practice is not always practical in healthcare, but it does provide tools that healthcare administrators can use to ask certain questions and make decisions. But what questions would you actually ask yourself as a healthcare administrator? John Stuart Mill. What are the limitations of utilitarianism? How can it help you make the best decisions? And how can it help you as healthcare administrators develop policies and procedures? Remember, Mill's focus was on the producing of good to where it benefit others and avoid harm. It's pretty much a means to an end where the end result produce positive outcomes. Under Mill, it is important to remember his types of utility. You have the act utility and the rule utility. The act utility is based on the principle that each decision is based on its own merit. Ethical decisions are made based on analysis of self-value. Not the best platform to use in healthcare, because decisions in healthcare are so multifaceted and complex versus being simple and singular. However, this act of utilitarian will help administrators to make decisions in determining what truly adds value or create value for the healthcare organization. Rule utility centers around the consequences that are associated with your actions based on things you should have or should not have done. You actually put rules in place to prevent and to avoid problems. We have the sexual harassment rule, not only in healthcare but in every organization. We have various rules within various departments as well as within the organization at large to help maintain control in a stable environment and minimize chaos as much as possible. Let's now take a look at Rawls' theory and belief. For Rawls, his focus was pretty much on justice for society or justice for all. He really focused on equality and believed that everyone is equal. Rawls also believed that everyone should have the same basic rights in society. No one should have special privileges or be favored over the other. That said, I pose this question to you. Should all American citizens have access to health care? Do all American citizens have access to health care? Technically, the politically correct answer would be yes, but then you have to really step back, look at how the system faces certain challenges, and really ask yourself, really and truly, does every legal citizen within America have access to health care? So in summary of Rawls, you would also look at the public health and other organizations based on social justice. Identify any political issues surrounding or around social justice. His theory causes ethics concerns with balancing mission and margin, which is definitely a huge issue in healthcare, because just like any business, the profit margin and the bottom line is a key driver for the overall success of the healthcare organization. Let's now divert our attention to look at the last 4 groups of scholars who focused on personal ethics, and they are known as the personal ethical theorists. We have Aristotle, Martin Buber, Lawrence Kohlberg, and Viktor Frankl. These scholars focused on individuals versus groups of people and their ethical and moral behavior. Basically, they analyzed how people acquire individual perspectives based on ethical thinking, moral reasoning, and theoretical decision making. Aristotle and his principle of virtue ethics, which we have discussed before, but mainly from a healthcare perspective, you would look at what is expected of you as a healthcare manager or a healthcare administrator. What are the benefits of eudaimonia? You are constantly asking yourself, what is the best thing to do? Now let's kind of focus in on the principle of eudaimonia. That is basically focusing on being happy or ideals of flourishing. So you could be happy if you choose to practice virtue in your life and work to build your moral character. So basically, according to Aristotle, you could apply this principle when you are seeking to hire various employees, making sure that they are the right fit, that they value your mission and vision, and will be a great part and add to a positive culture within your organization. That's a good way to apply the Aristotle principle of virtual ethics. As I previously mentioned, the principle of eudaimonia, it means living a life devoted to virtues and not just to external rewards such as money or pleasure. So to apply that in the healthcare environment or any workplace, you are devoted to your job or to your career, and you are working there because you have a passion for it, it makes you happy, and you enjoy doing what you're doing. You're not there just to collect a paycheck. If you find yourself there just to collect a paycheck, you may need to reevaluate yourself and may even consider alternate employment. Martin Buber introduced the I-thou principle, the most mature human relationship in which each person is recognized as being different and having value. In healthcare, patients assume that they are in an I-thou relationship because they assume that their provider values their needs much more than their own. A question you may consider is, do patients want an I-thou relationship with all of their practitioners or other professionals within the healthcare? I personally would answer that as yes, because as a healthcare worker, it is pretty much assumed by patients and other stakeholders that you are there because you have their well-being at heart and you are seeking ways to treat them effectively and efficiently, make them better, and enhance their overall quality of life. Let's now look at Lawrence Kohlberg. He is known for the ethical development stages. I won't go into great detail, but based on his principle, Kohlberg believed that people grow in different ethical stages. One must master one level before advancing to the next. The progression is not always chronological. However, the growth process occurs as life presents challenges and people attempt to find solutions for such challenges. Viktor Frankl. Viktor placed most of his principles based on the belief that individuals who lack any type of direction of having a sense of purpose in life and believing within themselves, that they would often turn to other things to fill that void. For some, it may be alcohol, a group of people, or organization, etc. Even some people may use their job, social status, etc. to make them feel better about themselves. According to Frankl's philosophy, and I do quote, possessing a lively and vivid conscience is the only thing that enables man to resist the effects of the existential vacuum. And this is cited in your text, page 26. Frankl always believed that you have choices, but with your choices comes responsibility, and that you should make good choices in order not to feel as if you do not belong. This concludes chapter 1. I know it was a little lengthy, and for the sake of time, I'm going to just do a brief overview of chapter 2, which is autonomy. This is the first principle of biomedical ethics as virtues. What is autonomy? Derived from the Greek origin auto, which means self, and nomi comes from the Greek word nomos, meaning rule or law. This autonomy refers to self-governing. In other words, a person possesses the freedom to make his or her decisions. An example of this in healthcare is the patient having the freedom and or right to receive or refuse care. In healthcare, there are two primary conditions that must be met in regards to autonomy. First, the patient must be competent, meaning the patient must have the intellect and the ability to comprehend and make rational decisions for him or herself. And second, their decisions must be free of coercion. A patient must not be coerced in any shape, form, or fashion in making any type of decisions. The above slide poses a few questions you should bear in mind as we complete week 1 and engage in class discussions. So think of these questions as you read or review chapter 2. In healthcare, does complete autonomy exist? And the key word there is complete autonomy. What are some patient limitations? What are some system limitations? And why would healthcare violate patient autonomy? As a healthcare administrator, you have an obligation to all patients and staff. The healthcare delivery system at large has an obligation as well. We must honor and respect patient-employee autonomy in every way possible. Examples of autonomy in healthcare includes but not limited to maintaining integrity of patient-employee information, veracity, which is ensuring that patient information or information at large is accurate and factual, and also obtaining permission to treat, in other words, informed consent. Informed is being aware of treatment specific to a patient's diagnoses and understanding all possible risks and outcomes as a result of such treatment. Consent refers to complete comprehension of treatment and granting permission for administration of treatment. Before administering any type of treatment, informed consent must be obtained. Failure to do so violates patients' rights. In order for permissions to be valid, the following must occur. 1. The person granting consent must be competent. The precondition of competence, meaning that competence assumes that a person is capable or has the ability to make decisions. Precondition would be consent should be voluntary, not coerced, as previously mentioned. And then the third aspect is for the closure of treatment, making sure that patients understand all of the risks and benefits. And lastly is the threats to disclosure. Each individual or patient must possess a level of health literacy, meaning that they have the ability to understand and make informed decisions, access to their personal information, but however they are patients who do not have access to a computer or who are not even comfortable using a computer. These are examples of potential threats in disclosing certain information. Autonomy as confidentiality, meaning that although you have the right to do and make your own decision, access your information, it is imperative that all protected health information remains confidential and should be shared solely among health providers and other health professionals for the continuum of care. No other reason. As an administrator, you will be exposed to a significant amount of confidential information. It is imperative that employees, patients, colleagues, and other stakeholders possess a level of trust in knowing that you and the health organization will safeguard their personal health information Ensure your information is not accessed by unauthorized individuals. Keep abreast of the HIPAA law, privacy and security of data, and maintain a professional level of conversation at all times. And follow through in making sure that all information communicated, whether it's verbal or written, in an accurate manner, and that the information shared is factual. Fidelity and autonomy means you will keep your word, respect others, and build that trust. This now concludes the first half of week 1's lecture. I realized that this was a lot of information, and I kind of rambled a little bit on and on, but I wanted to make sure I at least kind of highlight the primary viewpoints of the 8 theorists, provide examples even in a healthcare setting, and how you can apply each of the theory's principles. To test your knowledge, let's now see how much you remember by completing the first self-assessment. Good luck, and remember, if you have any questions, email your professor. Blessings.